considerable value nowadays are those that work in the architecture space. Cisco just came out with a Cisco Certified Architect credential. Microsoft has the Microsoft Certified Architect program. There's a couple of vendor-neutral software or development architecture organizations that have their own credentials as well. There's a lot of highly specialized kinds of certifications in areas like information security, where the CISSP and PSP and the CISM and the various SAN certifications all still command high value and respect. Areas like storage, with offerings from companies like Brocade, Sun, and IBM in the storage space, are pretty potent. And in general, if you take a look at sites like Cert Cities or Inform IT or even some of the major computer trade regs, most of them publish at least annual surveys in which they, on the one hand, take a look at the certifications that people are chasing most actively, and then also look at the correlation between salary and certifications earned. Those are very, very quick ways to help you figure out where the action is.
Good advice indeed. Now, to tie in a couple things you stated earlier in this interview, back in the day, that is, late 90s, let's say, I followed your steps. I read those books, filled my mind with all of this knowledge to be regurgitated on the exam, and to build test networks. This is kind of before virtualization, just had a cluttered room filled with hardware. So I'd be interested in your take now in 2010 with this advent of computer-based training, or CBT stuff, such as the video mentors that we offer here at Pearson.
Well, anybody who studies education and learning will tell you that people have different learning styles. And for those individuals for whom interaction and visual input is important, nothing beats a CBT. CBT technology is now advanced enough and sophisticated enough that you can actually integrate those virtualized, simulated environments with the actual instruction material and bounce back and forth between the two on the same machine. So I think that CBTs are very well worth considering for anybody who's studying for a certification exam. But I would advise people who haven't worked with those kinds of materials before to buy one and try it and see how it works for them. There are still people for whom the classroom experience rules the roost. There are others who, like you and me, are comfortable with working through a combination of books, practice tests, and anything else we can lay hands on for modest but not insignificant sums of money and just kind of bull our way through the exam. But certainly, as you're stocking your toolbox with preparation instruments to help you get ready for a certification exam, CBTs are worth considering, and for some people, maybe even a lot of people, they will be worth spending the typically $100 to $200 a pop it'll cost you to get a good CBT for a substantial certification exam.
This next question ties back to my first one, the origins of the Exam Cram line, and this question actually just came into my mind now. I've always considered you to be kind of a star maker in the IT certification space. Would it be fair to say that you've been a driving force in terms of launching the careers of many top-name IT certification and IT industry authors based on your work with them in Exam Cram titles?
Well, that may be gilding the lily a little too much. I'd be a lot more comfortable admitting to having helped a couple dozen people get their foot in the IT certification door, and for some of those people to become very successful indeed. But I certainly hesitate to take sole credit for what was and remains a team effort for all the people who were involved. And if I had to hand anybody on my side the real laurels for making all that stuff work, I would have to say it was those selfless and dedicated project managers that I had working for me on those books that helped us get 4 books done at the same time at a reasonable level of quality in a reasonable amount of time, which was the real trick that made Exam Cram succeed.
Have you had much interaction with, even from a customer's perspective, with the Exam Cram imprint since it moved from Coriolis's hands into Pearson's hands?
Well, I remained the series editor of Exam Cram in the period from 2002, at which point it transitioned from Coriolis to Pearson, until 2006. And I still actually provide input and information to Pearson about the form and shape of the program and the architecture of the books and some of the boilerplate content that goes into those books. So I'd like to think that I've still got a hand in it today, and that it remains a pretty viable part of any certification candidate's preparation arsenal. And I think that in terms of, sort of information value and bang for the buck, even though the cover price has gone up $5 since the first ones came out, I still think it's one of the best buys that anybody can make in terms of preparing for an exam, as long as there's a title in the series available on the exam that you're taking.
I've been asked by more than one customer to differentiate the Exam Cram and Exam Prep brands. You're a perfect person to ask that question to. What is the market differentiator or the audience difference between an Exam Cram title and a corresponding prep?
That's a great question, and I think if you just put the two books next to each other, the answer is at least partially obvious, and that is the preps are bigger than the crams. And in fact, if you think back to what I said earlier about what motivated the cram, it was a desire to create something that was as compact and condensed as possible to simply help somebody who already knew the subject material to understand what they needed to know to apply that knowledge to taking the exam. So this is a case where the cram is a very focused test preparation instrument that deals primarily with subjects and wrinkles that are specific to the test, whereas the prep is more of a general training and learning tool that not only addresses those topics, but that also provides background illustrations and additional resources that might be needed to learn about a subject matter rather than to simply understand how that subject matter comes into play on a specific exam.
In conclusion, what is your next move professionally with regard to your career in IT certification, publishing? I notice you're now an independent software vendor. Tell us what you're up to now and what you plan to be up to in the next several months.
I'm actually talking with the folks at Pearson about resuscitating an Exam Cram book that we did for the series starting in 2000 for Coriolis, and then did a couple editions of for Pearson as well. The name of that book is called IT Certification Success, and basically what it consists of is a collection of useful advice on how to prepare for certification exams, and then a sort of survey of the leading certification programs available in the marketplace. And what we're hoping to do is to take that content and put it on a website, Inform IT in fact, and to keep updating it to make it remain relevant and available to readers as they approach certifications whenever and whatever they may be going after. I also will be working on other editions of some certification books that I'm still involved in, and I think that I'm going to be consulting with at least one thing, their very own certification program, an outfit named Spiceworks based here in Austin, Texas, which just 2 weeks ago announced that they'd signed up their 1 millionth registered user for their interesting and very capable network management tool set.
Well, I imagine all these projects will keep you quite busy then, to say the least.
I don't get to sit around and watch the grass grow between my toes very often, that's for sure.
Indeed. Thanks a lot for spending this time with us today, Ed. In conclusion, audience, if you want more information on this interview, Ed's titles, etc., some websites to share with you at this time. Inform IT is the Pearson portal, in particular for our certification imprints as well as our other ones. We actually have in Pearson Technology Group our own site now, pearsonitcertification.com. Please bookmark that. With regard to Ed, we have edtittel.com as previously discussed. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, curiosities, any questions that perhaps you'd like me to forward on to Ed, you can reach me at timothy.warner@pearson.com. Ed, thanks again for this interview. It's been enlightening, and it was an honor to speak with you.
Well, thanks a lot, Tim. I enjoyed it.